Hello, everyone. Luma World is back with their next set of podcasts, and our today's guest is Nigel Scarfe from the UK, who runs an organization called as Imagination Gaming, where they offer solutions to engagement and learning to different organizations, be it social or educational, and that's not limited to schools or companies or old age homes or prisons. Nigel, we would appreciate if you could give us a brief intro about your team and your organization and what all you guys do.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Like you said, my name's Nigel Scarfe. And 16 years ago, I set up a company called Imagination Gaming. And it was set up because of my experiences when I was young, and what I felt when I was a child, and what I needed and never really got. Games opened up my mind to all sorts of opportunities, playing Dungeons and Dragons and Find Your Own Adventure books and so on. And it was through these that I began to learn more. So as I worked through my life as I did, I eventually realized that my goal, my calling, was to set up a business and try to do for kids what I'd always wanted when I was a child. So 16 years ago, we set up Imagination Gaming. And in essence, we go into schools from children as young as 3 up to secondary schools, the old people's homes and prisons, and we use tabletop games, be they board games or card games or dice games, to teach curriculum-based skills, to let the children apply what that teacher is teaching them in class to a variety of different scenarios. We also use it to address some of the things that we find with a lack of social skills in children and in schools and so on. The games, obviously being sat around a table, is highly interactive. You have to learn to really listen. You have to learn when it's your time to talk, to debate, to take turns and so on. Things that many kids nowadays, certainly over here, are truly lacking at. And the games help on all these areas in a way that is completely engaging to the kids. They cannot wait to play the games. So we get complete engagement from a classroom of kids. The teachers love it because not only can they see what the children are learning, but they can see how it's affecting them socially and emotionally. And it's the teachers buy into it straight away. They love what it does. And we've been doing this. We've had some hard times with COVID and so on, but we've never been as busy as we are now, and things are going from strength to strength. So in a nutshell, that's what we do.
I think that's an amazing backstory, Nigel, and I think you kind of like summed up the whole topic in those sentences. I'm just kidding. But what were the entry to like barrier to entry when you started your business? What all challenges did you face back then?
Oh, the first year I did the business, I basically for around 12 months, I did everything for free. So I literally just lived with no wage or anything like that, just out my bank account, just to try to prove the difference it could make. So if a school would let me in, I'd say, look, because they were all very, very reluctant. They said, I don't want anyone to come in and play Monopoly with my children. And I said, I understand that. I would not want to come into your school and play Monopoly. That's not really what we're about. And so I would go around various schools and organizations doing everything for free, just to create a reputation, just to show them the difference it can make. And after doing this for several months or so, people began to say, you know what, I get it. And there are some, and again, even now, there are some teachers or some organizations that will see it and go, I get it. Straight away, they'll go, I know exactly what it's about. I love it. And there are some others that go, I'm not sure. So we still face some of those difficulties now, but that tends to come down to the individual you work with, because every class we've ever been into, the impact is self-evident. And the schools that we go into on a regular basis, we walk into a class and you feel like a celebrity. The kids go absolutely crazy when they see you walk in the class. They know, and we're very firm and like quite tough with the kids, but they know they have an absolute blast as long as they work hard and they've got the right attitude. And they always do, because they just cannot wait to start playing the games. So it's, yeah, you feel like kind of a mini celebrity when you walk into certain classrooms, but it's such a rewarding feeling knowing that the kids enjoy it that much. You can see for some of them in particular, in some of the tougher special schools and so on, where there's a lot of people with real anger issues, you come out of there with handshakes, with real genuine thank yous. I enjoyed that so much. And they've not really done it before, and then they can't wait to do it again. And using the games, it's a medium sometimes to create a conversation. It's sometimes a medium to show people what possibilities they might have in their life, or the decisions that they're making. Are you making the right ones? Be confident in, not taking the easy option every time. Take the tough choice, because it's better for you in the long run. So the games are used sometimes just to create conversations with certain individuals, to show them that there's a way through this, and you don't have to be this tough guy or this tough girl. Just be yourself and just enjoy it. And let's talk about how you're feeling, and talk about what we can do to help you become a more, stronger individual.
I'm absolutely fascinated by that, because what you've done, I think how Sajid and I relate to it as well, is you've taken a personal experience of you growing up and saying that, hey, I like games, and I went to school and I thought there were a lot of shortcomings with education, and I want to go about changing that, right? And I think that's something that really relates to us, because that's how Luma World started off. Of course, you've got a journey of 16 years, and we know in the last 2 or 3 years that we said that, hey, we want learning to be more real world applicable. We want it to be more skills based and rote memorization. The games that we create really have changed over the last 2 years. So my question is, I mean, 16 years is a really long time, right? The goals that you probably started off with, how have they changed? The schools have possibly changed, the kids have changed, the games, the tools, resources that you use, the objectives have changed. um, there's been a digital revolution with learning. What do you think has really changed? What has stayed the same? uh, how far have you come along with your goals?
I think when I initially started with the various days, if I could go into a school for one day and do one session, it was like, that was great. That was what I imagined at the outset. It would show those kids the possibility of these tabletop games and the enjoyment they could have. And that really was almost the goal, to be able to go in and run a simple session of games for many kids that won't have even played board games before.
Yeah.
Now it is very different. We do an awful lot that's aligned to a curriculum. When we go into a school, we talk to them significantly beforehand to go, what are the outcomes that you are looking to get from our sessions? And we don't usually aim to go in for a day. There are a lot of schools now that bring us in every single week, and it's about turning kids around. It's about changing cultures in schools. It's about, how do we get even the weaker students in a class to feel like, you know what, I can do this. Not only I can do it, but I want to do it, and motivate and push themselves. So when we started out, it would simply be, I want to come into your school to run a games day, and that would be almost it. Now it's, no, we want to go in, we want to run a series of days throughout the year, potentially every week. We want to leave you with a resource pack of games that we can train staff upon, to continue to use them, not only to help apply the curriculum side of it, but to keep that social side going, to help with issues of bullying that they might find in school, or just to help with general social engagement. There's a huge issue with screens and screen time. Kids are generally addicted to computers or screens. The screens reduce their ability to sustain on a task. They need instant results all the time, or it's boring, which is a really unhealthy mindset to have, certainly in life, because in life there are very few things that you get instantly. The best things that you get, you have to work for. And the feeling when you've worked for something, when you finally get it, is so much more satisfying than a simple, I've done another level on this, I don't know, I'm tapping the screen. It's almost like a false reward. So we use the games in an awful lot of different ways, depending on what that school or that organisation is trying to achieve. So in some prisons, we've used games to try and establish a relationship between wardens and inmates.
Amazing.
So they've got some medium to sort of talk over, so that next time the guy kicks off, maybe this warden has a chance to say, look, think about what you're doing here. We had a really good time the other day playing this game. We had a really good discussion. I just want to talk. And try to maybe calm people down. So the way in which we use the games is so broad compared to how it was when we set out. And what's helped that is there's such a broad range of games out there. When I started doing this, games was not even close to what it is now. If you played games back then, you were a bit of a geek and people kind of laughed at you. Now, loads of people play games, and all the coolest people play games. And there's like a geek chic that's out in culture, certainly in the West at the moment, about gameplay. They're the coolest people now. So it's very, very different. But the scope of games that's come out has allowed us to tackle more issues with them.
True.
So it's, yeah, they are very, very different than how we set out.
Nigel, are there any transformative stories or scenarios that come to your mind, either in the school or in the prison, that you saw that brought a shift in the behavior of that particular child or person?
Oh, I think there's lots. I won't say that whenever we've used a game, it is immediately gone, yeah, that person's changed. They're not instant. And most of the times that we've seen big changes is because of returning to a school or an organization. It's that repeated behavior. It's that every week on this day, you'll be working with me. And it's them looking forward to it. I mean, we work with a special school over here that's quite challenging. The kids got a lot of serious anger issues. They hate going to the school. They rally against that all the time. But through games, through Dungeons and Dragons, we've got those kids now asking to stay back after school to do extra time with me, just game playing. Now, these are kids that will not come to school, that that really hate it. And we have, I mean, the other week we were there, we had a group of 8 of them stay back. And it's quite a low attendance in these places. There's a high ratio of staff to pupils because of the behavior. But to have so many want to stay back is kind of unheard of. And it's down to going into their classes throughout the day, using the more standard sort of games that we use, and saying to them, you know what, these games are really cool. There's something else we can do, but it's going to mean you're staying back. And at first they'll often go, no, not a chance. But they enjoy the games in class so much that I'll go, well, the offer's still there. Eventually, 1 or 2 of them will say, you know what, I'd like to give that a go. They then tell their friends at the school, oh, we did this really cool game. So then more come, and then more come, and then more. And eventually, we've now got 8 currently coming back after school, which is, the staff are always, wow, this is so good. The parents are delighted because the kids don't often do things outside of school hours. So that's come through a lot of quite difficult, challenging sessions. But these are some of the, in a way, least sociable kids that you could meet, and that will now work together. I'll be there tomorrow again. I'll be running 2 different sessions after school and let the kids play board games and various other things off, just literally on their own. And I'll just kind of supervise and make sure they're okay, and they'll love it. And it's doing them so much good, just interacting with other kids in that school that they may not normally see or talk to. So it does make a real difference. And there are kids that I see walking past where I live. There are a lot of schools around here that may not have worked with me for 3 or 4 years, yet they will see me on the street. They'll immediately come up and say, hi, Nigel, do you remember this game that we used to play when I was at primary school? And they may not have been at primary school for 5 or 6 years, and yet they can tell me how to play that game. So the amount of recall that they've got on the games, clearly, if you are using the right games to do the right job, it sticks. And it's those sort of learning, that mental maths, those basic literary skills, that we're trying to get to stick in the kids' heads, so it makes them stronger in class and more able to deal with things outside of class. So there's quite a few things like that. It is a very rewarding job, if a little hard at times.
Yeah. So I think all of us are on the same page with the fact that, gaming can really transform the way kids learn, the way kids behave, how they socialize, how they collaborate. It changes the way they think. But let's say if I'm a parent or a teacher, right, or even a school or a prison, do they ask you to quantify the data to, let's say, show progress that a child or an inmate has made from X to Y? If so, how do you go about doing it? What are the tangible elements that you can take off after a workshop or after a program?
It's our most challenging issue at the moment. One of the things that we're looking at is being able to, how do we demonstrate this? And with the schools that we're working with at the moment, there is no tangible data that shows this is the effect. Now we're working on several things behind the scenes where we will hopefully be able to go into a school, but in a way to show that data, we need to be able to show the effectiveness of, for example, the exam results that the kids are doing. If they work with us throughout a year, how does that affect their exam results? Is there an improvement there? We believe there is. And we can see the effect it has on the children as to how they're learning and how they're returning to class and how their behavior is improving and how they're more engaged because they feel more confident in doing things. So we can see anecdotal evidence, but we're working on several things at the moment, and it'll involve putting together a scheme where we go into a school and measure their results against a school that's nearby that hasn't been working with us and comparing information like that. But it's getting that tangible data for us to do what we want to do. We would like to gamify the curriculum over here. We think there's a strong need to get games as part of the curriculum to help not only apply certain learning, but to actually teach it, because we can show how the kids talk to us. That when we use the games, the information sticks, and often that doesn't. So it's certainly it's the biggest hurdle we've got to get across as a company. And if we can find a way to get the right data, obviously that will be invaluable. And we've tried various things in the past, and it's not been feasible. Schools haven't recorded things in a certain way and so on. So it kind of fell back, but it's something that we are looking to do. And we've got a few ideas as to the best way of doing that as well.
Fantastic.
So just to add further to that, the other day I was testing some games with some kids, and they had purchased some of our games. And one of the girls said, "Hey, I want to play Zing again." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And while interacting with the kid and the parent, the mother said that she's actually improved in her factors and multiples. And now coming back to imagination gaming, I mean, Zing has won the best game in maths. And I mean, I would, first of all, we can, if you can help elaborate a bit more on how the whole award system works, how you guys test the games, and not just like, I mean, different games coming in from all over the world. What does the testing constitute? How do you figure out which game wins which category? And then maybe, we can start over there.
Well, generally, when we initially get the games, we will play them as a group several times to understand, okay, not only how does that game work, but more importantly, how do we actually go about using the game? Because there's a lot of games that we get sent in that initially we'll go, we can only use this in this situation. So when we're doing a library event, we'll use this sort of game. If we're going into a school, because the school will ask us, right, I want you to work with year 3 on mathematics or year 6 on literacy, we have to tailor what we take in very much. And sometimes we find that games come in and we go, we love this game, but we can't use it because of this rule or the time it takes. So we will change that game slightly so that it will allow us to use it in that situation. So we will come up with the categories based on, we've played it, we understand the game. Based on what we do, we know it fits into this best, because from an education perspective, they will classify it as this, as problem solving, as cross curricular. That's how it would sit. In terms of the the judging really is down to parents and teachers, families that play the games. One of the things that we try to differently is we try to allow the end users to judge which are the best games. So we say that we take the games to various events throughout the year. We have a scheme throughout the summer in which we post out hundreds of games to families, and we say to them, play the games, keep them for a few weeks, and then send us a review back. And the awards judging is generally based on that. It was a little bit difficult this year with COVID and so on. But in general, it's about the teachers, the parents, and the kids playing the games, the feedback from them that then allows us to go, right, this is won that award, because it's unified. You know, they've all rated it very, very high. They've all given it a really great score. Therefore, that does that. So we only judge a couple of the categories based on, for example, Family Classic, excelled in schools. The one that we know have specifically worked over a period of a couple of years or so, we will judge that for the work we've done. But the other categories are judged by parents, by teachers, and by the children themselves, and the feedback that they sent us. Because we want our awards to differentiate from most other awards, where it's a panel of judges, which often is quite subjective. And it is with our families, I would guess. But if we try testing it with as many families as possible and take their broad statements, we can say that award has come by the people that are most likely to buy the game.
Right.
They're saying we generally feel as parents and as teachers that this game is a fantastic maths game. Therefore, we'll rate it like this. Well, that's coming from the people that I guess you guys are trying to sell to. We're trying to go in and work with. So we feel that's the best. They're the best judges often of what makes a great game. So we try to make it judged by themselves rather than us.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information that we've spoken about, and I want everyone to like imbibe it. So I'm gonna lighten the mood up with a question that I have for you.
Shall I get a drink?
No, so my question is this: let's say, you know, a few years down the line, you're sitting with your grandkids, you know, maybe playing a game with them, like, and if you had to define imagination gaming, you know, what would be the one most successful thing that you would have achieved for you to sit back and tell your grandkids that, hey, you know what, this was a massive success. This is what you should remember me for.
Oh gosh, that's the question. I think it's more right now. It's more obviously. I hope that when I get to that stage, I'm able to say this. But I would like imagination gaming to have changed the curriculum in the UK to have games-based education, something that is seen as the norm, not something that's seen as, well, we do that if and when we get a little bit of spare time in the day, because I've seen it personally and I've seen it countless times of the effect that using the right games in a classroom can have not only on the children's learning, but on their social outlook. And when we go into a school, we do the after school clubs where we invite all the parents in. It's trying to bring the families together, doing something constructive and spending a bit of time like that, rather than you go on a screen, I'm going to sit on television. I set it up because I genuinely want to make a difference. And I think we have for an awful lot of people already. But I think we're kind of scratching the surface, and we want to, of course, I want to pay bills. I want to live a comfortable life. Absolutely. But I genuinely want to make a difference to all these people out there that need that kind of little bit of inspiration. And I think we've tried to help game companies. We've tried to help the schools. We've tried to help families. We're trying to do things for the right reason. And if I can look back with somebody else's my brother's kids, perhaps. I don't have kids. That's the way I think. If I can look back in years to go and go, you know what? Look at the difference. Imagination, and people talk about imagination gaming in a really positive way about how it impacted on their lives, then I'd be happy with that.
I like that answer for two reasons. One, it's transformative, so it's really bringing about societal change, something that we really like. And the second reason is that we get to make more games. So yeah, we're happy with that.
Nice.
Nigel, I know Imagination Gaming does a lot of events all across UK and some international ones too. What are the different events that you look forward to? Like, what are some of the biggest ones that you participate in?
Well, we do. We've always done it well. We've done for the last around 10 or so years the UK Games Expo, which is the UK's sort of premier gaming event. And there are several other gaming events that we do around the UK. We're being asked an awful lot at the moment to do other gaming events as well as things like Comic Cons. So last weekend we did the big MCM Comic Con in London. Not this weekend, but the weekend after, we've got another Comic Con in Birmingham. We anticipate to have 14, 15 major events next year where we'll have a presence. And again, having a family zone that's all about getting families that don't necessarily play games too often together, giving them a safe place to sit down where we will teach them a range of games that is going to work for their family. They don't have to worry about the rules. We will do all that. You just sit and enjoy yourself. And hopefully they walk away going, you know what? We should play more games together like this. And if they go with that, that's fantastic. So we're having more and more events all the time ask us to participate and run things like this, which is great. We would look to do more abroad. I'd love to do similar things in other countries. We were going to talk to the guys at Essence Spiel about potentially something over there. We've done some talks over there before for various companies. We'd love to spread Imagination Gaming into other countries. We've obviously got Cyprus that Andonis is running over there, and that's going to start picking up now that COVID's receding a little bit. We'd love to bring the ethos and the work that Imagination Gaming does in the UK to way more countries and start setting up Imagination Gaming India or Imagination Gaming France, Germany, wherever else it might be, because I think it's something that will make a difference no matter where it's set up.
Right.
So it's big times ahead, hopefully.
Yeah, it's almost like you guessed what my next question was going to be. I mean, how easy do you think this model is replicable around the world? Because we're divided by cultures, languages, methods of learning, curricula. How easy or difficult do you think it is to replicate it across the world?
I think there are hurdles to overcome with each individual country. But I would suggest that no matter where you are, if we know whichever country we're going to work in, we know we're working with these particular students, we will be able to find and alter a set of games to go in that will have a really positive effect on those kids. And it doesn't matter where they are in Russia, in Germany, in India, wherever it would be. I think you would see an extremely positive effect. And while there's, of course, a need for kids to be very, very focused and come out of school learning as much as possible, because it's a tough world to walk into, we have to be very careful that we're not simply seeing kids as, well, they just need to go out there and do work. They have to have that enjoyment, that pleasure in life. And this keeps them understanding that learning doesn't have to be all serious. We can play games and we can learn an awful lot of different things through gameplay, while at the same time having fun with a big smile on his face, interacting with all our friends and debating the sort of situations that occur in the games. So I think with a bit of work, I think it's fairly easy translatable into any country. I'm confident of that.
And and like you mentioned, a couple points to that. I think games are a great uniting force, irrespective of where you are. It breaks down boundaries. You can sit with, let's say, someone. I mean, we've had playtests with people in Iran, or we love playing our games. They love recommending games to us. So it's not necessary that geographical boundaries or the thoughts that we have, the languages that we speak, games help us to set all of that aside and be like, hey, this really makes us connect in a way. The other aspect is it opens a train of thought that we wouldn't have had previously. We see that a lot with the games that we test with kids. When, let's say, we put out a prototype, their kid more often than not will always go like, oh, I never thought that could be done. Oh yeah, I can do that again. Can I have another go? And an examination or a textbook doesn't allow you to do that, but a game does. It allows them to have that other go. It allows them to be like, hey, you know what, you made a mistake, who cares, go again. And also, the most important thing, it makes them to think, oh my god, I could have done that. And that realization, that self-realization often is that aha moment. It makes a lot of them go like, I like this. Why can't I get to do this every day? Why do I have to, write on a piece of paper and do a worksheet?
So that's funny. That kind of is one of the sort of classic rules that we use when we go into any organization or environment is the first time we sit and play a game with the kids, we say every time, right, this first game, you're not going to play to win. We're not going to let you finish the game. I want you to play to understand. Because if we're going to, for example, a classroom and I've got 4 children and the children on this side are really sharp, really, fast. The kids on this side, they struggle a little bit. They take a little bit of time to get to it. If we play to win on the first game, these 2 kids here, they absolutely thrash these 2 kids. And we ask the table, do you want to play again? And these 2 go, no, it's boring, don't like it.
Yeah.
For understandable reasons. So if we have one game in which we say, no, just play until it becomes almost intuitive and know what's happening now. I'm beginning to see what I need to do, what strategies are laid within the game. Then we stop the game, right, let's start again, but this time you can play to win. It's more of a level playing field. And the people over here feel a little bit more confident in actually, I get it now. Whereas the first time we played, it took them that little bit of time just to get up to speed. And it's important. We have a bit of a thing where a lot of gamers over here are very, very intense about, I have to win. I have to prove that I can win. It's like, really? Maybe get out more. I don't know. But it's like, it's a really important lesson for schools to make sure that everyone feels like I stand a chance. Or if I lose, I understand clearly why I've lost. And now on the next game, I can put things in place to avoid that pitfall again.
I'm definitely going to use it against Venkat next time.
Of course, good answer.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a question that we ask everyone who has been on the podcast or even otherwise that we deal with personally, professionally. What's been the impact of COVID, and how's it changed the things that you set out to do, and has it, are there tailwinds, headwinds? How does it go?
I think COVID was very difficult for us because obviously as a company that goes into schools all the time, there was none of that at all. None of that at all. So literally we couldn't work. The government over here provides support, which certainly helped. And eventually we came up with schemes and ideas that we could do online. And we're quite lucky. We have a number of schools that really try to look out for us. When times are tough, they'll go, I tell you what, come in and do this. Let's do this. Can you help me with that? And we'll come with something to do that. And COVID was a tough time. I think it, in general, affected adults worse than kids over here. I think the children got bored. I think they missed their friends a lot. They missed that interaction, which they really need. And so there's a real need right now from schools for us to go back in. Now that the restrictions are less, we're more able to go into schools. So particularly after Christmas, we're expecting a bit of a landslide in schools coming forward saying, can you do this work? Can you do that work? But I think adults suffered a lot more over here because adults, once you get to a certain age, get into a little bit of a routine, and the routine doesn't include their children at home every day. And because the kids are home every day, I think they found that very, very tough. And it almost, in a way, it was quite interesting because then you imagine, well, if you found it quite tough with your kids at home, imagine how a teacher finds it with 32 of them in a class every single
Right.
day. We seem to forget that over here quite regularly. So I think it was difficult for kids, but I think certainly adults were more affected. And in terms of working, it was a difficult time for us. So we had to be very careful in what we were doing, and we just had to come up with new ways of working. So we did a lot of online games and online activities. And like I said, it's clear we have this group of schools that really love what we do and believe in the message and what we do. So they supported us as we've tried to support them throughout the years. But now COVID's it's still here. There's a lot of cases over here, but the restrictions are less. Most people have been vaccinated, so we're able to go into schools, and there's more and more now turning around going, can I book a day here? Can you work with these kids? Can you do this for us? So hopefully we are way beyond the worst of it now. We're coming out the other side.
And I mean, if there are any parents or educators listening, I think, most of them probably are going to be from India or other places in and around. As someone who goes into schools, different kinds of schools, works with different kind of kids, what's the message that you've got for them? Like in terms of using games, in terms of education, in terms of imparting education of what kids are doing at home. What's the message that you got?
I think games are the future of learning. I absolutely believe that. I think getting kids or children to apply what they've been taught is absolutely essential. And certainly over here, there isn't enough time within the curriculum to really give the children enough time to apply. You might have taught them fractions, you might have taught them whatever it would be, but you give them very little time to see how that information is useful or how to use various equations or knowledge to help themselves. So it's gone. Games are the perfect medium to do that. The games are so good. And once you are playing something and you've got a smile on your face, you're enjoying it, that information sticks far more easily than somebody sat at the front of class simply listening to a teacher impart that knowledge. So I truly believe with the world in which we live, where technology is quite dominating in a lot of ways, both in a classroom where every kid will have a screen or an iPad or something, and at home when they get home and the parent goes, here's your pad, go play on that. We have to be very, very careful. Just because we can do something, it doesn't mean we should. And this huge amount of screen time is going to be causing big problems later in life. And I think there are often misdiagnoses with children having various issues that aren't really those issues. It's actually due to a huge amount of screen time and the effect that is having on the child. We can tell when we walk into a classroom, we can see within moments which children spend a lot of time on screens and which children play games with the parents. It is that stark and that evident. Those children are not only less socially adept, but the ones on screens tend to be the ones that misbehave more. They can't take in information because they're not trained to necessarily listen. Whereas those that play games with their families at home, you can have conversations with them that you just can't have with the other kids. They're able to take on information more easily. The way they accept winning or losing is so much more balanced than these other kids. You only have to walk into class for moments and it is that evident that games are a very, very useful tool. They've been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. They've always been something that we as humans have done. And I think it's something that should be put into the classroom far more, because it will only help our kids going forward. We're missing out on that social side of things, and it's too important to lose. And I think it can make a huge difference on attainment for the kids as well. So yeah, I think games are absolutely the future of education.
We feel the same, and we experience these things over here as well. especially interacting with a lot of parents, with teachers as well. Um, uh, Again, India is kind of similar to UK, I would say, the education model, but a bit more amplified, I would say, because the classroom sizes over here are probably double, if not more. Certain schools now, especially the international schools, have lesser students, and implementing a game in the classroom is much more easier over here. We keep getting requests. I mean, we work with a lot of teachers who say, hey, this will definitely make a difference, and especially the whole play-based method of learning is slowly getting into the system now. In fact, the new education policy, I don't know if you've heard about it, NEP 2020, is something which emphasizes more on play-based learning in India. But of course, it
Oh, okay.
take time to be implemented, and definitely organizations such as Imagination Gaming will play an important role, because the whole aspect of facilitation, using a game or adapting a game into a classroom, is definitely going to be a thing for the future.
I agree completely.
And just to add to what Sajid's saying, because our education system is really something that is, I mean, in a way, it's a British legacy, right? I mean, essentially, the system was developed to train people to perform certain jobs. They could be government jobs, they could be, artisan tradesmen, business, finance, lawyers, etc. Various situations, and we're trained in order to do that. And the classrooms are initially, the starting places for this. How well do you retain information? How well can you actually, I don't want to use the word, but how can you vomit that information where it's required, right? So it's just about retaining information, replicating it in a manner that is necessary for your profession, and finishing that off and then repeating that process. But the world today has changed. It's about more of creative expression. It's more of artistic expression. It's about problem solving. It's about identifying what the goals of humanity are, and how do we actually solve our problems for today, so that we can look at a better future for tomorrow. And this model doesn't work. And I think that's where something that you mentioned really sticks, as to why games are the future of education, because the problem may be one, but the solutions are many. We need to start identifying that different people can have different solutions to a problem, and all of them are acceptable. And we need to find which is the solution that is most efficient for that particular problem at that particular time.
Hmm.
And getting to kind of think out of the box and say, that's a great solution to the problem, but maybe can we try this out, because it's faster, it's less of a burden on maybe the environment, it's less of a burden financially. Is this something that is viable as a solution? It may take longer, but it's less impactful, or would create less of harm to everyone around. That may be what we need at this point, right? So I feel that games allow you, especially giving you that option to play around, tweak around, try different things, experiment, simulate. It really changes the way that you think, and you start applying that beyond, let's say, the table, or your group, and you start applying it every day. And if something like that can work into our system of education, I can easily see we can have a new generation of really conscientious thinkers who are responsibly advocating solutions to problems. And I think that's something that we need, let's say, 50, 60 years down the line.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, the world is changing and we need very different solutions. Engagement of children, certainly in England, from our experience, engaging the children is getting harder and harder. And the number of pupils that can create issues in a classroom is increasing all the time. So you have to have ways that you can get them engaged very, very quickly and make them believe that A, I can do this, and B, I want to do it more. And like we say, games are, from our perspective, a proven way of delivering that. We see every single day when we go in, we get complete engagement, we get the kids really thinking hard, and that's what they need. And that's the future for us. It's about getting games into classrooms, games delivering the curriculum. So it's something we're going to work hard on keep doing and pushing forward with.
Yeah.
I guess all of us have a lot of food for thought, and I'm going to once again end it with something that's light, just to bring the moment back into a bit of laughs. Um, Something that we ask everyone, Nigel. What are your favorite games? Maybe your top three, something that you're playing currently or all time. What would be your top three?
Actually, before that, other than testing games for imagination gaming, do you get time to play with friends or family?
Yeah, I get sometimes. I still run a Dungeons and Dragons session most week for
Right.
friends. We have a head teacher, a mental health nurse, a support worker, and a lad, a 14-year-old, that meet up every week to play Dungeons and Dragons at mine.
Right.
Right.
From the moment they met, they'd never met each other previous. Even after the first session, it was as if they'd known each other for years. There was such a great atmosphere. I don't get as much time as I would like to play games, but I do enjoy. I found that I'm less competitive now than I used to be. So I
Okay.
like deck building games, but I like deck building games with cooperative elements. We all win or we all lose. So I like the legendary Marvel series from Upper Deck. I like the DC deck building game from Cryptozoic. I like a new range of games that's come out, quite themed on films. So at the last Comic-Con, we played a Back to the Future board game, a Jaws board game, an Alien board game, and I've enjoyed trying those out with friends. So I'm quite lucky in the fact that I do get to see an awful lot of games in what I do. But I'm not too particular. I like cooperative games. Anything that's cooperative, I like that. So somebody comes around, we just chill. But yeah, I think it gets serious sometimes in these conversations because we're passionate about what we do. We absolutely believe we can see what this will do for our young people. We can see how it can help teachers, inspire them into different ways of teaching. And I truly believe that games they made a huge difference in my life. And I know it could make a huge difference in so many other people's lives. We just have to get them out there. And so sometimes we just get quite passionate in what we're saying because we truly believe it and we want to make a difference. If there are anyone out there that sees this that would be interested in asking questions, please feel free to put my email address up. I'm happy to talk to teachers or whoever it might be about what we do and so on. Always interesting to hear from people from across the world. So
Yeah, we will be doing that for sure. Since you mentioned co-op games, you should definitely check out this game called The Crew.
I've seen it. We've seen it.
Yeah, I don't have the box here, but it's one of my favorite games these days.
Yeah.
It's a trumps game. It's a sort of a trick trumps game, isn't it? Yes.
Right.
German company released it. Yes.
The other one we just got introduced last week is called Cascadia. That's also pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Cascadia.
It isn't
I've done that one.
Yeah, it's not cooperative, but it's a lot of fun. It's actually now my current favorite game. I feel like
that's a good recommendation. Wow. Cascadia. I shall look out for that one, definitely.
All right, Nigel. Thank you so much for this lovely chat. I think
my
all
pleasure.
of us have are leaving the better off after this conversation. Great to pick your brains and really, get some good insights into what you're doing with imagination gaming. Congrats on that, and really looking forward to further interactions and helping you out with all the games that we can create and seeing, how you're impacting kids' futures. Kudos to that.
Well, thanks for the invite, guys. And we love your games. We use them an awful lot over here. They go down extremely well. It was a very deserved sort of first prize with the best maths game. And we look forward to seeing whatever you guys come up with next anyway.